Thank you all for coming here today. We'd like to welcome you all to Freeport. It's great to have some special guests with us today. Special Assistant to the Governor, John Kamen, and Town of Hempstead Supervisor Kate Murray. I'd like to say thank you for joining us. Most of all, I'd like to thank New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo. Let's give him a big hand, please. And New York State Director James Rubin. You know, Freeport and the South Shore of Long Island has got to know Governor Cuomo very well during and after Superstorm Sandy. Those were tough and difficult days for all of us, and it's changed this community forever. We want to thank Governor Cuomo and the state for all they did to help the residents in this community when Superstorm Sandy hit, the days and weeks and months that followed. While Sandy was the worst storm that's ever hit in the memory of Freeport, it's not going to be the last one. Simply repairing our homes to their previous state can no longer suffice. Governor Cuomo, we, the residents of Freeport, all agree with you 100% that this state must go above and beyond, not to just build back, but to build back better. With the funding from New York Rising program and the support of our partners in New York State government, we are building back, and we are building back better. That's why we're here today. I want to thank Governor Cuomo personally and on the behalf of all of the residents of Freeport for his continued support and assistance after Superstorm Sandy. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce Town Supervisor Kate Murray, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Well, good morning, and thank you, Mayor Kennedy, for introducing me and for hosting this event in this great village and in front of this wonderful new construction site. I want to thank Governor Cuomo for coming to Long Island today and for his continued commitment to Sandy recovery efforts for our homeowners and businesses alike. Sandy, as we all know, devastated our communities in ways that we never experienced before. And while the storm displayed the wrath of Mother Nature, it also evidenced the best in governmental cooperation. Governor Cuomo, Mayor Kennedy, and I have had an opportunity to work closely together to help our neighbors recover and rebuild in the wake of Sandy. I want to thank you, Governor Cuomo, for your great leadership and help in the wake of this devastating storm. Now, one of the governor's signature programs, New York Rising, is designed in a way that when we rebuild, we do so in a way that shows that we have learned important lessons from Sandy. Today, of course, we are at the home of Danny Eric, who took advantage of the New York Rising program to rebuild his home to withstand another storm like Sandy. In genuine partnership, Hempstead Town has waived all building permit fees and for storm victims who make in-kind repairs and rebuilds for Sandy-damaged homes. In fact, we've also done away with the requirement for a variance to raise homes like this one to meet, and others along the South Shore, to meet FEMA flood height requirements. Now, these steps can save homeowners thousands of dollars and, almost more importantly, valuable time in the recovery process. Now, for 2 years, I've seen the resolve of people who have decided to stay in the communities in which they have lived and loved. They are rebuilding their homes and their lives. So, Governor Cuomo, again, thank you for developing the New York Rising initiative. You are raising spirits and lifting homes. We thank you all. And now I'd like to thank and introduce Freeport homeowner Danny Eric, whose home we are in front of. Danny?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining me. My name is Dan Eric. I'm a lifelong resident of Long Island. For roughly the last 11 years, I've lived here, and now my let me start over. For roughly the past 11 years, I've lived in this home, but as you can see, I'm working on it. Like so many others on Long Island, Superstorm Sandy damaged my home. The flooding on my first floor was unimaginable, and it took me weeks just to clean. The flooding, I started with cleaning my tools because I knew that I would need them to gut my first floor. All the time I was thinking about what I could do to limit the work for the next time, the next flood. one thing was clear. I was not going to just patch up the damage and allow Mother Nature to turn my life upside down again just in a few years, or maybe sooner, maybe later. Instead, I wanted to make my home stronger with the next storm in mind. I needed a new foundation. The foundation was damaged in the flood. I needed a new foundation, so I decided to go all out and raise, I decided to go all out and raise it above the flood levels that Sandy had brought. As you can see, I'm still working on the place, but I know it was the right thing to do. And best of all, Governor Cuomo, through New York Rising, took care of the cost. So I want to thank you, Governor, for not just helping me afford to stay on Long Island, but helping me to build a home that is stronger and safer than the one I had before. Now I would like to introduce the Governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Danny. Let's give him a round of applause for his courage here. First, to Mayor Kennedy, pleasure to be back with you, sir. And we thank you for your leadership through this very difficult time. Your Supervisor Kate Murray and I spent many a night together. Don't get the wrong idea. It was during Hurricane Sandy. They were terrible, terrible times for all of us. But it was a pleasure to see the community come together. It was a pleasure to see local leaders really step up and perform extraordinary public service. And that's what you saw from Supervisor Murray and from Mayor Kennedy. And let's give them another round of applause. Rob Walker is with us, who is representing County Executive Ed Mangano, who was with us during those very difficult days and did an outstanding job. And from my team, the state team, we have John Kamen and Jamie Rubin, who are running the program out here on Long Island and are doing great work, and I want to thank them for that. It's a pleasure to be back in Freeport. It's a pleasure to be in Freeport when the sun is shining and when it's dry. Freeport really tells the story. Freeport is all about the relationship with the water, right? Freeport is what it is because of where it is. It was about fishing. It was about the oyster industry at one time. A great seaport because it was on the water. Being on the water means something different now. And Sandy was not a one-time affair. If we're smart, Sandy was a point in time that calls for us to readjust and reevaluate what we're doing and how we develop and how we build. I've been governor for 3.5 years. In those 3.5 years, I've had 11 federally declared disasters in 3.5 years. I've had more weather disasters during my tenure in 3.5 years than my father had in 12 years as governor of the state of New York. Okay? So anyone who says there's not a shifting weather pattern, I think is in a state of denial. Because there is a new reality. There is a new normal. And the extreme weather patterns are more and more obvious, not just in the Northeast, not just in the United States, but it is global. And to think that, well, Sandy came and Sandy went and it'll never happen again, I think that is denial, and I think that is inviting disaster again. So it causes us, if we're smart, to reevaluate what we're doing and where we're doing it. Our power systems, we're reevaluating. Our water systems, we're reevaluating. Our water sewage systems, we're reevaluating. Our weather detection systems, we're reevaluating. It's no longer funny that the weatherman gets it wrong. The weatherman gets it wrong now. We're relying on those weather reports, on where we deploy our assets, etc. So we're putting in a whole new weather detection system just here in the state of New York, so we have prior knowledge before we have a problem, and we know where we're going to have extreme weather throughout the state. It's going to call on us to redo our emergency management system. Our emergency management system was not designed to handle catastrophes of this magnitude. And how do we work together? And how does the county work with the town, work with the village, work with the state? How do we put all these pieces together? That's all part of the reevaluation that we're going through. And a basic question is, where do we build and how do we build? And sometimes there are some places where we built on land that belongs to Mother Nature, and when Mother Nature comes back, she reclaims the land. And maybe it's every 2 years or 5 years or 7 years, but she comes back and she takes it because it was hers in the first place. We're in the process on some parts of the state of moving homes, literally, and just moving them to higher ground, literally, as the expression goes. There's also a question of how we build, not just where we build. I remember during Hurricane Sandy, I was looking at one of the communities in the aftermath of the storm. And I started walking towards the water from about 2 blocks away. And house after house was badly damaged. And I would stop and they would show me the flooded basement, flooded first floor, and we're walking closer to the water. We finally get right up to the waterfront. And the first house on the waterfront is elevated and has no damage whatsoever. And I said to the owner, how did you fare? And he said, fine, little minimal damage, had some panels, but it was minimal damage. I said, well, why did you elevate the house? He said, well, because it was the 3rd time we got hit by a storm, and I got tired of repairing it, so I invested and I elevated it, and no damage. There are parts on Long Island where elevation is a serious option to consider. Now, during the reconstruction, by federal rules, some homes had to be elevated to qualify for federal reimbursement. What we're announcing today is an optional elevation program, where even though the federal government didn't require homes to be elevated, we think it may be a good idea and a good option for homeowners to consider. If your home is in the 100-year floodplain, or if FEMA has certified your home as a repeated loss, meaning you've suffered significant damage several times, and FEMA certifies that, the state will fund the elevation of the home. Again, it's optional. It's up to the individual homeowner. About 6,500 homes on Long Island are located in the floodplain, and they would be eligible for this state funding. I think it's something you should seriously consider. Now, Danny obviously made that decision. He has the canal in the backyard. He's a few blocks from the bay on the other side. But don't assume Sandy isn't going to revisit, even if it's by a different name. I would assume the opposite. It is going to happen again. And our challenge is to be better prepared. If you want to know if your home is eligible for the optional elevation program, you can dial 1-855 New York State Sandy, NYS Sandy. That's 1-855-697-7263. 6,500 homes are eligible. Find out if your home is eligible. As I said, assume the worst, prepare for the worst, assume we're going to have another storm. I think not to make that assumption is denial. The good news is we'll be ready for it next time. And there'll be less damage sustained because we will have been prepared. And then we will have learned the lesson of Hurricane Sandy. And to me, that will be the silver lining. Once again, we want to thank Danny for allowing us to be here today. Once again, congratulations to the mayor and the supervisor for a job really well done. And thank you all for taking the time to come. Danny's going to take us for a walk around the house now, and then we'll be available for questions. Thank you. You're the tour guide.
I'm the tour guy.
Yep.
I do this for strangers. Why wouldn't I do it for the government? We'll start upstairs.